Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, one half a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
Everybody, we got to do this. My name is Brent, and I have a show, a podcast, and it is based on, the first thing is diabetes. Just because I've spoke with a lot of people, and they tend to, everybody knows somebody that's a diabetic. So whether you have diabetes or know somebody, it affects you in some way or another. And even if you don't know anybody, I always say you will know somebody. And it's a weird thing because we're fighting that diabetics are born that way, and some diabetics just get it through bad habits, through your genes. So we're all potential diabetic. Well, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of us are potential diabetics, and you just don't know what's under the surface. And I always say, whatever a diabetic does, people should do anyway, because you eat more often and healthier, or at least you should, and exercise. But there's a lot of problems where, in this day and age, where we have a lot of tips and tricks and medicines and everything else, somehow people are not reaching their full potential. And that's why I put in the description that you're probably doing better than you think, in that by changing a couple habits you have, you'd be surprised how often you could make really good results. So really good gains in your with your A1C and everything else. So one of the things I want to do is I don't like to exclude anybody. I think everybody should always be involved in a conversation. So I try to be as vague as possible sometimes, though sometimes you need to hit the nail right on the head. When I first got diabetes, I was younger, and I was older, 17. Typically people get it when they're juvenile type 1 when they're younger. For whatever reason, I'm right in the middle. So I am not a doctor. I just play a diabetic, and over the years I've learned a lot of tips and tricks, and I'm 44 right now. I'm in good shape, and I have a physical job, so I try not to be a hypocrite, because I think it's easy if somebody's it reminds me of the personal trainer that's just really fit, and he's getting on you, but it's like, hey man, I can barely get out of bed. I'm not doing well. So you want somebody you can relate to, though I think nobody's born with the knowledge, so it does tend to take a few years to be a little more well-rounded and a little bit more, I think, empathetic, to other people in other situations. The people my heart breaks for are the people with kids that have diabetes, especially at a super young age, and they're confused about it, and they're wondering, what the heck, what do I do now? And I had a dog a long time ago that had diabetes, and I'm not comparing animals to children. Animals aren't that bad, but and I could say that because I have lots of animals. No, I have 4 wonderful kids, and thank God they're healthy. But my dog was, the dog can't talk to you and tell you what's going on, and so there was a little bit of understanding when I hear people that they have young children that are diabetics. Ouch, that's, on top of everything else. I have a cousin, believe it or not, she has multiple sclerosis, and she has been raising a kid for the last probably 5 years with diabetes, and luckily, I had the pump, and then they seen it and inquired about it, and that's making her life a lot easier. So yeah, you get these kids now that your heart breaks for. But I tell the parents, I go, you know what? Kids are pretty tough. I mean, we're all pretty tough. When you're stricken with something, you could attribute it to, hey, God's only going to give certain people certain things and watch them shine. And kids will toughen up. I mean, they will become tougher kids. And let's face it, how valuable is that later on in life? So it's not a total negative to be sheltered from any sort of pain, but I think as a parent, you're witnessing it, and you do anything to switch places with your kids, depending on which kid. But you don't know what to do. You want to help, and now you're going to frustrate your kid because they can't eat certain things. But my advice would just be, talk to other people that are doing it and listen. And you're going to hear people tell you stuff you already know. You're like, oh, but just sift through, what is it? Chew the fruit and spit out the seeds, and because you will get nuggets of information. But when you're new, just absorb everything. And even if you're a veteran at this, and you can be doing something just because it's habit, and then you hear somebody that just kind of started out as doing things different, don't be afraid to change. I mean, gosh, how many people are struggling just because they're so damn stubborn? So you got kids that are dealing with this, and give them all the technology, and eventually they'll get used to it. Every 3 days changing your site, and every 3 days changing your the site from the monitor, site from the pump. And if you're just using needles, then it's kids will get used to that too. I mean, thank God it's just an insulin needle. It's a lot smaller, and instead of a 16 penny nail, I feel like that's what they use when you're drawing blood. It could be a lot worse. So it's and then you figure out where to give yourself shots, and how to make it not hurt, distractions and different things. But we're, as humans, we'll live up or down to the parents' expectations, and if you just do it unapologetically, habitually, I think it will wind up being a positive thing, believe it or not a negative thing. And because let's face it, I think a lot of these kids now in America are so sheltered that at a certain point it doesn't become a benefit. And again, it's just the silver lining. It is what it is, and you got to take the good out of it. The thing that we have to worry about, obviously, is the long-term effects. And when you have a long-term effect, what are the things that we could do to stop it? If there's something we could have done and we didn't do, that will drive us crazy later on, thinking, okay, I got this problem and I got that problem, all because I didn't do certain things. So we want to do whatever we can to curb that, and that goes with anything, but especially diabetes. I know many people that they have a hard time functioning. My father-in-law, he was in a taekwondo and healthy, and then the diabetes, he has type 2, and he's becoming a little bit, I don't want to say decrepit, but he has his limitations. And he's not that old. He's only 54, 56. And that I don't think his diet is where it should be. His exercise, stems from lack of energy, stems from, wherever. And it could all probably be sourced down to just knowing the importance of getting ahead of the game and keeping the momentum. And that's what I always say, like when people work out, it's you can't compare right now going to the gym versus 3 months from now, because 3 months from now, when you notice the results and you get habits, it's going to be a lot easier to put your foot in the door. But to be at the onset, you're just like, oh gosh, I'm not going to do this every day. But it's like a funnel, once you start going through it, it's hard to get in there at first, and it gets, at least if you're going the right way through a funnel, and it should get wider as you keep on going. And that's probably a good life lesson, is if things get harder and harder when you're going down a certain road, maybe you're going the wrong way. But it's another podcast. So yeah, you got kids that are dealing with this, and if they learn the importance of nutrition, health, and exercise and everything else, and lack of stress, I think that should be piled on everything. They'll take those habits into adulthood, and vice versa. If they learn health doesn't matter, nutrition don't matter, exercise doesn't matter, see you stressing out all the time, guess what they're going to do later on in life? They're going to be stressed, unhealthy, eating terrible, and especially stricken with the disease, they're not going to be able to recover as well. It's kind of the old saying. I think Dr. Drew always says, pay now or pay later. Let's try to be wise beyond our years. If we could pull that off, we'll be doing okay. And then you have your kind of, I don't want to say veteran diabetics, but the people that kind of know what time it is. And I think this is some of the worst, people that are in the worst situation is they're okay because of their youth, but their A1C is really high, and that's, of course, you go and you check. It's kind of your average of your blood sugar. I looked mine up at one point. I thought I was doing okay, and I think it said I was committing slow suicide. So I was kind of, whoa. It was, they were not being polite, but, I think we need to hear that. And so I changed as much as I could. It's our habits, though. I think if, a lot of times if you're not doing other things, it'll bleed over into this. So you really need to take your life and kind of get to a starting point, and whether it's, okay, I'm going to buy gluten-free stuff because you have stomach problems because of the diabetes, or, low sugar stuff, whatever it is, just start and just jump into it. And if you fail, jump into it again. And 30 days later, you fail, jump in it again. And eventually you want to be on that fast track to wellness, where you're living right and eating right. And by eating right, I mean, it's, there are so many good foods that you can go to the grocery store, and I go and I buy these salads. They have stupid ones that are all the iceberg lettuce, and you just, you go and get a free packet of ketchup. They're so dry. But then they got ones that are like chef salads, where it's just everything on there. And yeah, I'm sure, Oprah would say, or Dr. Oz would say how bad they are, and, the story of my life. But it is kind of a bridge to eating better, and it's a lot better than, digging into a bacon cheeseburger or pizza, or anything else that, they say we can't eat. So, and once you start doing that, you kind of crave it. You look for it, as long as it's a good one. And then, there's other foods. Of course, we have to have candy bars around just in case, but try to get a thing of grapes, and just in case you need it, it's there. And you don't have the guilt factor when you're done. If I'm disgusted off of grapes and I give myself a bunch of insulin, at least I don't have the guilt when I'm done, versus, just downing, one of those big, the twin packs that they sell on the impulse rack at the pavilions. Well, it tastes great. When you're done, you're just like, oh, you kind of feel like you're off track. So it's easy to do the next bad thing, to where if you're eating something healthy, it's easier to do the next healthy thing. And so eat right, put it in your lunch, or learn to maybe not just order the worst thing on the menu. Like if you let's say you are going to Jack in the Box, just say, okay, first look at the healthiest thing there. If you cannot pull the trigger on that,